Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Balanced Integrative Health and Bodywork podcast. With me today, I have Sahand Mokhberi. Sahand is a body alignment and breathing specialist, and he's based in Mexico City. Welcome, Sahand.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. And how are you today?
Doing great. Doing great. It's Saturday night here, so it's just past 7:15 p.m. So
Oh, nice.
happy
It's
day.
uh, it's a beautiful Sunday morning here in Perth. So
Oh, cool.
I'm curious, what is a body alignment and breathing specialist, Sahand?
Great question, because it's still hard to explain things when I talk to people, even though I've been doing this for several years now. Um, well, there is no one modality that will get you qualified in terms of body alignment or breathing.
Mhm.
So we have to go a little bit further back, um, just to show you a little bit more about where I started.
Mhm.
I started first with massage therapy. So I
Yep.
started when I was living in Australia and got qualified because I wanted to use my hands and I wanted to help people get out of pain, and felt like that's one of my gifts, to be able to help people find their healing path and get out of chronic pain, essentially, because I would just meet a ton of people with pain, left, right, and center. And in a way that pain is just something you have to live with, and it's part of life, and there's nothing you can do about it. So I started with massage therapy, but then one thing I realized early in, it was that most people were not getting better, and they needed to see different therapies with different modalities, and they were just getting a symptomatic approach. So getting a bit of relief for a short term, let's say,
Mhm.
rather than finding what exactly is happening in these people's lives that is causing them to have chronic pain or have really bad posture that's causing them a lot of tension and also causing them emotional problems, because pain and emotional problems are always go hand in hand in my experience. So then I started looking at different modalities. But while I was doing that, I was training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I was a competitive
Okay.
um, athlete, you could call it, or a competitor. And I was working in an office job, sitting in a desk and all day, working behind a laptop. And then I'll go and train 6 days a week, and I'll go and compete. So I hurt my hip in a match, and then my pain was just excruciating, and that's sort of how I got into this path of helping people heal and also studying more and more about the body. But going back to the question without getting sidetracked is because I was seeing different therapists, some of the best therapists in Australia, and I couldn't get an answer to my problems, my postural, my pain, and my hip problem, the injury. I started noticing that, hey, there is a lack of information out there, or we're not connecting the dots. There is something that we're missing here. And I wanted to avoid surgery because a doctor told me, hey, there's no other option but to have corrective hip surgery.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I started looking at different paths, and within 1 year, I managed to get myself completely out of pain and back into day-to-day things, and improve my quality of life. And then that's when the real learning really started. I started looking at any course I could get my hands on, not just anatomy, or not just looking at theory, but looking at how I can connect it to my body. Because you can learn a lot by the book, but if you can't apply it to your mechanics and apply it to your life and get something out of it and see long-term results, then it's just information. It's not really applicable. So I studied with anatomy train, which they're the leader in fascia and connective tissue research, and also therapy,
Yep.
and also functional patterns, learning how to do corrective exercise once I open my body or open a client's body and smooth out the fascial adhesions or not in their body, what to do next so they can move better and not go back to where they were. So that's how things started as a body alignment therapy.
Yeah.
And then another thing I noticed was um, every single client that I deal with, they talk about breathing issues, or I see them breathing very heavily, even though they're laying down on the table. So then I also, during the pandemic, I saw the need to get qualified in Buteco breathing, which is a scientific method, and we can correct breathing from the biomechanical and biochemical points, and we can discuss that as well. But
Yeah.
essentially, it's just a bunch of tools that I've gathered over the last 5, 6 years of studying, doing mentoring, treating clients, and just finding the latest tools that can give you more bang for your buck and give more quality of life. We went on a bit of a rant there, but
No,
that's
no,
just
it's
that's just my life.
that was really good. There's so much to dissect in everything you've said there. One thing that really made me curious is what did you do in that? Because you said there was a 1 year period where you personally got yourself out of pain. Was that doing the movement side of thing? You mentioned functional patterns and the bodywork anatomy trains, or did you do something else? What sort of happened in that year where you got yourself out of the hip pain?
So I knew nothing about the body at this stage. I've been researching lots of healing and lots of different modalities, but in terms of looking at the musculoskeletal part in the movement mechanics, I was very green. You know, we never know enough. But at that point, I was just looking at any information on Google day and night. I used to work in an office, and I used to get a tap on the shoulder saying, "Hey, you've been on the internet too much. You need to work." And I would get in calls in the meeting room because I wasn't actually working. I would be looking for ways to get out of pain. And I remember I saw it probably was fifth or sixth pages on Google. Like nobody does that. I was just going and going and going desperately looking, and I saw something that said functional patterns. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, what's that? And then I saw a few people that had talked about how you get into the root cause of the pain, and explaining the human movement, human mechanics, and how we have to respect the gait analysis and our primal movement, which is standing, walking, running, throwing, etc. So it resonated with me, and I found a local therapist, and we started doing some work. And immediately I found that, hey, I'm learning things that are practical about my body, not just looking at the muscles on a screen or on a sheet of paper where they start and where they end, but how they all integrate and work as a one function, as one human being working together. So that really intrigued me. And then they were running a functional pattern human foundation course in Sydney. And I remember at that time I was desperate and I had to borrow money. And I did the course, and it changed my life because I learned a lot about myself and my body and my movement, but more importantly about the way I'm treating my body, the way I'm taking care of myself in terms of movement. And also, we learned how to do self massage with like a trigger ball. You find the specific points in the body that are causing us to shrink and get used to the sedentary lifestyle, and then start to open those. So when I would finish work after this course, I would spend 2, 3, 4 hours a night looking at the pictures and finding different knots in my body and releasing it with a trigger ball, with a Serracane, with a few tools that I just bought. And I noticed immediately that my body feels different. And I had faith that the pain would go away. And then as the time would go along, I noticed that the pain is reducing, and I'm feeling better, and I'm not really tense. And then within a year, I was completely out of pain.
So the pain was related to the hip, or there was more things going on globally within the whole body?
Well, looking back then, I didn't really think what pain was. I just think pain is something you deal with, or I didn't really research into it. We we don't really focus on important things until they're a problem. So I thought it's just you know the pain because I trained hard or overtrained and hurt myself. But then I always had terrible posture. So I used to sit like this, and I have photos when I was a little kid. I used to be always like this, and my family used to always tell me, sit up, sit correctly. And I was just like, how? How am I going to do that? And it was very tough. But over the years growing up, I always remember having some sort of pain, some sort of movement restriction. Like one of my legs would always have a tough time, like if I wanted to rotate my hip to one side. And those things over the years, I've saw so many therapists, and they're like, look, this is normal. Or, you might have an extra bony bit in your hip capsule, or it's just because you were born like this. So there was never a definitive answer for me. I was just like, I don't believe in this. And when I started, learning more about the connective tissue, about how the body moves in relation to gravity, rather than a cadaver that's been chopped in pieces and little pieces of muscle, where they start and where they end. When I really started to understand that and start applying it and videoing myself and just seeing what's actually going on, it made me really interested to um, look at the movement and look at where I'm actually locked up, and then what do I have to correct. And obviously, there is there's a lot of evidence nowadays and a lot of good information out there that shows you how to integrate your movement, how to connect different parts of your body that you may not even know about, and then improve your posture, improve your movement.
And I think that's a great little highlight there. It's something, I'm a structural integration therapist, which is a form of body work, and where I'm always trying to give clients more awareness of their body, different areas of their body that perhaps they've lost awareness of, or giving them the tools to become more intuitive outside of clinic and explore their body and explore their movement as you did, but you did this by yourself, which is really, really awesome. And you learn so much about your body, how you move, and what's been holding you back. And you also learn how to sort of overcome certain patterns. With all that, what made you take the first step from, being curious and learning about this on your own time to, becoming a practitioner? How did that sort of come about?
So not long after the injury and learning to how to do self massage and really getting passionate about it, saying, whoa, I'm getting better quality of life, I'm getting out of pain. I was talking to anyone that had like a pain, or someone and family members, hey, come here, try this, I want to show you this. And trying to force feed the close people around you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was then I was speaking to a friend and I said, look, I like this, but like I'm just scratching the surface. I don't know how I can apply this in a way where I can help people. And at that time, I wasn't even thinking about, becoming like a therapist, but I was hating my desk job. So I was desperate to get out, but it was probably, you call it a synchronicity. I was speaking to a friend in Gold Coast, and he said to me, dude, what's going on? How you liking this? And I said, look, I'm very intrigued, but I just want to learn more. And he said, you can always learn by massaging people. Learn the anatomy as much as you can, but learn how to find it so you can touch and you can palpate where exactly you're seeing on your anatomy book, and also what exactly you're doing. You're not just pushing, like what is your context? And this was a while ago, and it blew my mind. I was just like, what is the context? What is this? What is it? It was a lot. But then I was like, well, I don't have anything to lose. Let's do a massage therapy course, which was absolutely fantastic. And it helped me learn so much about holding space and holding a safe space for a person, human being, we call it client in our profession. But we're dealing with a emotional person, a being that's coming in, and we know nothing about. So we have to ensure that they feel completely at home, so they can open up. And a lot of times they come to us for a therapy that involves body, but all those things are coming from a way of emotional factors as well. I'll give you an example. A person that's very depressed or was, for example, bullied as a kid, they're not going to walk around with a high posture, or they're going to be very timid, and they're going to have some trust issues. So you got to make sure that person is not put in a box. But the moment that they contact you first, you need to ensure that person looked after and feels very comfortable. So those are the things that I learned in massage therapy, and you know, it was invaluable for the money that I spent. It was like $4,000, $5,000 for a massage course. It was absolutely beautiful.
And
But then when I
those lessons are really powerful lessons to learn. You know,
absolutely,
how to work with clients that have had those types of experiences and how to build trust and rapport.
yeah,
And your story as well, and I think a lot of therapists, not just in body work, but all different kinds of therapeutic work, a lot of us have come from overcoming pain in our own lives, whether it be the body or the mind, and that helps us come into this kind of industry. So, and I myself used to have chronic lower back pain, and I really resonated with your story of, you know, the researching on Google. I was doing that endless nights, and that sort of put me on my path into bodywork as well.
that's
So with
amazing.
on the subject of clients and with your clients, what are you trying to achieve in terms of, because you mentioned you're a body alignment specialist, what are you trying to achieve for your client with body alignment and breath work, and what kind of clients do you work with?
Yeah, good question. So all of this has been changing. Every 2 to 3 months, I go through all my processes and all my clients and write down my experiences and things that I could do better. I've always been this kind of person. I never stick to one routine or one little way of doing things. I'm always looking for more efficient ways, and obviously more efficient ways to treat and help clients,
Yes.
whether it's for pain, whether it's for breathing issue. One thing I do, and I've learned, especially over the last 2 years, ever since the pandemic, and learning about breathing, and then working with a lot of different clients, is that you have to sometimes, as a person who is trying to help, let's say we're a therapist or we're working on the body, we have to also consider that if we can't force our view of therapy on the client, and that's like a double-edged sword. So one thing is, you don't want people coming to you and say to me, "Hey man, my back is bad. Can you just get into it with your elbow?" I'll be like, "No, sorry, that doesn't work like that. We need to find out why you've got that pain, and we never dig in with the elbow. That's not respecting this human system." But it's more like, what does that client really want? And also finding out, do they even know what they want? What are they here for? And I think that comes with experience, making a lot of mistakes, asking wrong questions, or just asking yes and no questions. Hi, how you going? Yeah, good. I have a bad back. Okay, well, let's get you on the table. Then you have no understanding of this client and
Yes.
their restrictions, contraindications. So it's like asking like a lot of deep, open-ended questions, and just finding out, what is this guy here for, or this lady here for? And then based on that, try to put together a plan. And that doesn't always work out for them, because they have a totally different view of what they're getting themselves into. But try to educate them that, hey, and I use this sentence every time now, and I say, physical problem, you might be coming to me with a physical ailment, let's say sciatica. It's never physical. And they look at me like I'm speaking a totally different language. I say to them, there is a part of you, there's a behavioral problem, or I don't even use the word problem. I say a situation that needs a solution. So don't look at it as a bad thing, but I'd say, well, you might have chronic pain, but you're sitting down on a desk all day, you're breathing through your mouth all day, so you're using your upper chest and neck, you're chronically stressed, you drink a lot. So if I just treat your sciatica, but don't be honest to you and say you don't sleep, you don't stay hydrated, you don't take very good care of your health, and those are the type of conversations I have with clients. And some I've burnt clients before too. That, I mean, not burnt, but they're just like, you know what, you're not the right therapist for me. That's not what I wanted. I just wanted a hard smashing massage. And I said, sorry, I don't even do massage it anymore. Like I want to correct your movement and your body. But again, I tell them, if this is not a priority to you, if this is a quick fix, you might as well just find another therapy, or I can, help you find another person. But this is going to take a little bit longer because certain things within you and your lifestyle and your environment have to change. And I think that's one thing I'm very, very loud and passionate about is, we need to focus on a bigger picture, not just relieve symptoms for a few days and then find ourselves back into the same boat.
Yeah, so you're just trying to cover as much as you can outside of, like, really get to know the person, what's their sleep like, what's their eating like, what's their movement like, just to really get a sense of what is driving that particular pain or perhaps movement pattern, something that they're coming in with in clinic.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, I think I'm really big on talking about with people around me and say, I don't even like that word therapist anymore because it just boxes you in. Because especially in countries like Australia, like the US, you can, like, if you're working with the body, with the connective tissue, if you're a physio or massage therapist, you can't even tell clients certain things that don't fall into your modality, or you can face getting court actions, getting sued in the court. So it's that's one thing I love about Mexico, because people are open-minded, and obviously I can say, well, I'm certified in these areas, I can help you, but I can still have some talks to them about their behavior. I don't need to be a psychologist to tell a client that I really care about, or anyone, that, hey, your drinking habits or your lack of sleep or your constant poor stress management, destructive behaviors are causing you not to get better. And I think the more we have these tough um, conversations with people, people will come around and actually thank you a few months later. You might get a very sour customer walking out, but at the end of the day, you've told them the truth. And I spent a lot of times losing customers, clients after one or two sessions, and then I just sent them a message. They will ghost you, or sometimes they say, well, you know what, mate, you're doing something that is too weird, and I just want to go and do something that's more mainstream. I said, no problem. It's your life at the end of the day. I hope at least that plants the seed in your head. One day you look at the whole picture, not just look at the shoulder pain and say, well, this is my shoulder problem. There's always something bigger behind the scene.
Yeah. Okay. So and I mean, I feel like you've kind of answered it in a way anyway. Does posture and alignment matter? Do you feel that it matters?
I mean, this is my opinion, and based on few scientific, well, I wouldn't say scientific paper, because um, we there's always contraindication. There's always one factor that's affecting something else, or there's always a paper coming out with a PhD scientist saying posture has zero effects. Do not fix your posture. Or other people, such as functional parents, they have thousands and thousands of oral anatomy trainings, thousands and thousands of video testimony of complete gait change, and people's real stories that they say they got over cerebral palsy, they walk better, or they let go of their walking stick, they rehabilitated, including myself. So I tell people, try it before you start thinking too much. Get a feel for it. and then look at the evidence after, and then decide for yourself, if it's something that's important or not. But in my experience with the things that I've seen over the years and the changes in clients, I believe posture absolutely matters. And there's a lot of information and a lot of supporting evidence out there. So, I mean, it's just up to the individuals where they want to look and what resonates with them at that time of their life. If
Sure.
you told me 5 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, you should correct your posture, I'd be like, why? Like what's the priority? But a lot of times we're human beings these days are designed to um, wait till there's a tragedy or a pain, like a chronic pain or something, rather than preventing it in the first place. If someone says, "Hey, I feel fantastic," I would say, "What if you were more fantastic, fitter, stronger, healthier, better sleep, better hormonal balance, better sex drive, better, digestion, better skin tone, 10% every day?" Would you say no? No. But the thing is, a lot of us are very busy and a lot of people have a lot of things on their plate, especially since the COVID, working from home
Yes.
and, run, run, run. So there's a lot of um, busyness, and I'm busy, you hear that? But there's very little time to be completely switched off. So you can look in yourself in the mirror, or you can go to a therapist for 90 minutes once or twice a week to change behavior that is stuck in your body, in your posture. So I beg to differ. I said posture absolutely is important because it ties into your efficiency. So if I'm walking and I'm like carrying myself and I'm struggling to walk, and as a result, I'm going to struggle to breathe. What am I actually doing? Am I using a lot of fuel? Am I driving with the brake and accelerate at the same time? What if I just accelerate and let go of the brake? And that's what getting in, correcting the posture and correcting my movement, whilst as a result of relieving the chronic pain, has taught me.
Okay. So with your clients, what is proper alignment or correct posture for them? Is it one set thing or is it different for every person? From my field of work, it's different. Everyone has their own neutral. Do you sort of work from that framework, or do you have a different perspective on that?
Yeah. So I mean, look, anatomy trains, or they've come up with a very beautiful model of looking at the gait, or with the functional patterns as well, when they look at the before and after of the clients, and um, which is great, like looking at structural integrity, looking at all the joints nicely stacked in gravity. But I mean, there's a lot of factors to consider. There's bone differences, races, gender differences, and there's like people that had surgery. So there's never ever a perfect posture. And I used to think like, why is this client not becoming super upright, and the neck is not lifting? But
Because you could get someone with some body work, maybe you could get them to a point where conventionally they look really, really good just standing there, but take them into a little bit of movement and they, that perfect posture that was imposed on them is not there anymore. So,
absolutely.
yeah.
And that's when it comes to the posture is great, and opening up the connective tissue or the fascia um, is beautiful in respect to the gravity. So not when they're laying down and saying, "Oh, this area is tight or not tight," but like looking at them how they move and figuring out what's not actually rotating, like what's not actually working well, bringing back the function. But until that client learns to move differently and behave differently, they'll go back to where they were. So I'm going to give you an example. So you work, and the majority of time, the very first session I work with, or first or second session, is I work with the diaphragm, with the ribs, with the neck, and try to lift the thoracic cage, just to lift the rib cage up and the back of the neck opened up, so they can get like a sense of opening, and that relaxes the nervous system. That helps them move more freely and breathe better.
Yes.
But and immediately when the session's finished, they say, "Hey, I feel something's different." I say, and I don't say anything. I just say, "Well, put it in words. What do you think?" And that intrigues them. They just go in and say, "Well, I feel like my chest is open, but my neck is not so much down." That's great. They start to take some of that away. However, if that person leaves your clinic or your space, goes straight into the car, looks straight down on their phone, goes back to their busy head in the cloud, busy, 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 go, go, go mentality, and doesn't move differently. For example, doesn't go for a walk or doesn't run or doesn't rotate as humans need to, and they go back to exactly what their body knew. The work most of the time is not as profound. I wouldn't say goes to waste, because a lot of times, even that one session reawakens different parts of the body. And we're in a society where we're completely disconnected from our body. And that's why we have so much anxiety around us and so much mental health concern and chronic stress. We're not able to get rid of enough because we're just constantly going, and we're not feeling what's happening inside. A big black factor of that is time and the
Yes.
priority. So it's like to answer the question in a bit of a different way, maybe a different perspective, that might open up some sensations in different parts of that person's body, and as a result, getting them back more within. And that might be a few years down the track that they say, "Hey, I actually think I need that, and I do need to be more present in my body, and maybe I can pursue that." Then your job is well done. That person will grow and start finding their path and finding their body, reconnecting and then resolving their issues one by one. But I mean, I tell every client this is, you need to look at different way of moving. And that's a very broad thing. And it's like what are you talking about? But showing them how corrective exercise that respect our human mechanics, our gait, walking, running, throwing, breathing correctly with a 360-degree, not just up and down through the mouth. That's when you start having those conversations, just planting the seed. And if the client says, "Well, yes, that resonates with me, show me more," then we can look at corrective exercise, we can look at breathing. But I'm a big believer that everyone has a priority, and sometimes financially and also time-wise, it's not the right time for them. They come to you with all good intentions, but it has to be their absolute priority to change as a human being, because posture is behavior, breathing is behavior. So you don't just change like that and then everything's good again, or you're a different person. It takes a lot of time, a lot of conscious effort throughout every single day until that change happens. So but one thing I am very passionate about is, even though we don't see or hear about it as much, more and more people are learning, asking questions and saying, "Hey, I wonder if there's another side to the coin. There's another perspective. Maybe I can do even better." And more people are asking these questions, that they're looking for a whole approach and improving their quality of life as a human, rather than just give me a rub or give me a relief for a few days, which is fantastic. I mean, massage, I'm not knocking massage therapy or any modality. I'm just saying, like, if
Well,
we work more.
I think that points out that if you are a massage therapist, that collaboration maybe is needed, because I think what you've pointed out is really, really great. What I like to give my clients is awareness. I essentially see myself as painting awareness in their body. Yeah. And then you talked about movement. Movement is definitely the next piece, because we want to give our clients awareness. And then once they have awareness, then they can go back into movement. So, if they've got a movement that they love to do, when they go back into it, they're like, "Oh, I can go a little bit lower here, or I can move a little bit more easier." And then the other piece is presence coming into their body. So, which is another piece I try and give clients. And you mentioned as well, like, how does that feel now? So looking inward.
Yeah.
So if you are just in one field, that's where I think collaboration is necessary. Like, I like to give my clients little movements, but I'm not a movement expert. So yeah, I refer on to different practitioners for that. And even for, I guess, learning presence, looking within is just another resource I'll refer on. But from you and what I'm getting of what you do, you offer the movement, you offer the awareness through touch. And then also you talked a lot about before how you're helping clients, you're asking big questions too, which I think is pretty powerful.
Yeah, I mean, you have to find what you love, and if it's your knack, like I love using my hands and love the clinic space, but also love to teach people how to move and the corrective exercise and also the breathing. So it's like I'm a talker and I love looking at new information that I can first apply to myself,
Mm-hmm.
so I can improve my life. And then when I have done it and when I see, whoa, this is amazing, and it's not um, it's not a vague thing. It's actually something backed by science, and there's a lot of people that are actually resonating with it. There's a lot of information behind it. Then I say, well, if it's working for me, and there's a lot of other people learning, and it's as a result learning about themselves, then I want to learn it myself, because with where eventually, if one thing I look at is people's time. You know, Perth, for example, where you live is a quiet place. It's not too far. But if you live in New York City, for instance, or Mexico City with 23 million people here, most people commute to work 2 to 3 hours each way. I've got a few people that about 2.5 hours each way driving, and it's constantly red lights, red lights, red lights, pollution. So that's a lot of
That's a lot
a
on
lot
the
of
body
stress.
already as well, a lot on the system
Exactly.
already.
For them, financially, one thing, put that aside, but time wise, a lot of people are just on the go. So 1 hour or 45-minute session for them is already a lot. So imagine you telling them, hey, you've seen me. I want to see you 12 weeks every week, or sometimes twice a week for an hour and 15. And you got to drive to me, and then you got to drive back, and you still got to commute to work. But then I recommend you A and B as well. That person is already overwhelmed. So I think referral is fantastic if the person's available. But I think coming back to those questions, hey, what is your restriction? Some people are financially restricted, some people time wise, some people, other factors may be involved. They may not even tell you at the first few sessions. So I think good to pinpoint those and then find out what's actually going to give this client the biggest bang for the money, for their buck. If someone says, hey, I don't have any pain and the posture is relatively good, I don't need to work 12 sessions working on the connective tissue. I can maybe do 2 or 3, get them really get them a good base in their body, get them more connected. Maybe, for instance, look, if people have very flat feet, or if they've got rotated feet, I look at ways of how we can give this person more support on their feet.
Yeah, just giving them a
and
strong foundation to move from.
that's right. And if you have solid feet, if you have feet that are absorbing the shock and they're gliding rather than you stomping the ground and you just constantly contracted in your feet and your ankles, your feet is freer, you're gonna walk a little bit more relaxed. So that person already gonna be a little bit more less edgy, let's say, or less reactive. And we're talking about people in city, people that we deal with on a day to day. The majority of people, not people that live on a farm or in blue zones. But sometimes I see people that say high blood pressure, diabetes, um, anxiety attacks, poor sleep, and I know exactly that needs to be a breathing session in there within the first 1 or 2 sessions, and just re-educate them how their breathing is not supporting their day-to-day need, and then they don't have longevity because they don't sleep. And you know, sleep is the number one most important factor when it comes to healing. because you only regenerate during deep sleep. And if you got
Definitely, definitely
insomnia,
a foundational piece, sleep to health. I
yeah,
agree.
and that's right. So I mean, it just comes to a point where I need to figure out what this client really needs. And if I think that's what they need, they still have to be on the same page with me. So it's like, um, I say it in a way. I say we learn to be engineers for trucks. We learn to be engineers for buildings, for spaceships, like the most advanced technological things we have these days. But very few people want to be their own human body or human engineer. And that
Yes.
doesn't mean you have to know every single muscle from A to Z. So, all the origins and surgeons, or you need to know every organ, every nerve. It's more than that. It's like, um, keep learning little white side pieces and applicable knowledge. Because it's great watching a documentary, but or reading an anatomy book, but if you don't take anything out of it and apply to your life as of then, and it's not making your life better, that's in my opinion, that's a bit of a waste of time, because right now we need to be excelling every day so we can live better and be better for people around us. So I think, you know, begs the question, like, what are we really learning? Learning is great, and reading books is great. I love it. And I'm researching and watching lectures or investing in different courses. And I'm spending 2, 3 hours a week at least learning new things every week. But I only put that on for something that I can apply to my life and apply to my clients and people around me. Otherwise, what's the point? Time is short, and you know, we gotta we gotta keep growing and
And with
stimulate the mind.
clients as well, we don't have to, yeah, you're right. They don't have to learn, every muscle. It's just about, I think what I mentioned and what you mentioned, just presence. So when they're doing a movement, like, how does that feel? Oh, every time I do this particular movement, I get a popping or I get a light pain. I should probably
Mm.
not push through that. That's my body telling me, because that's something I get a lot of clients coming in. They're constantly pushing through these signals. So I think it's coming back to present awareness, just checking in with your body. And in terms of learning your body or easing pain, that's, soft tissue related, one of the easiest things you can do in the world is myofascial release, which is just using a roller, and it's just slow, sustained pressure on an area. But you're learning from that too. That's giving you a tool in which you can learn how to ease parts of your body, and again, building on present awareness. What I
Absolutely.
wanted to ask though is, so you are combining breath work and body work in one session, or do you keep them separate? I mean, it would be easy to tie the two. Like, I use a lot of breath as well in body work, but do you keep them two? Are they two separate things, or you've combined them? What's happening there?
So with every client, it's a little bit different, but I mean, it's just impossible to mix everything. It'll just be information overload for the client, and also nervous system overload. So they're not going to get much out of that. And they're going to leave exhausted and just be like, what did I really do? Like, this person gave me a whole bunch of stuff. So it's obviously, once we get the priorities out of the way, and connecting with the client, I have to ensure that what their timeline's like, if they're willing to look at their breath, or if they're looking at that, if they're resonating with what I tell them. But I mean, I have different clients too. I have people that find me through the Buteco clinic online, so they look at the certified breathing practitioner, and then they message me. So those people, some of those people are remote, so I don't even have access to them. It has to be over Zoom or Google Meets, and that changes things. And there's people with diabetes, from high blood pressure, asthma, to various other sleep disorders like sleep apnea and snoring. But when the client comes to personally into my clinic, and especially they're very committed, and I can see them. They want to resolve their chronic issue, their long-term debilitating pain or their problem. And I look at that they've declared certain things, which I know they will. If they've rounded shoulder and they're breathing heavy in front of me, they're going to say that they're anxious and they don't sleep well, because you can't be in fight or flight and get a deep, healing, relaxing sleep, as you are more than aware. But then every session is different. Sometimes I say to them, hey, I recommend maybe the next session we just do breathing. And then sometimes we don't even talk about breathing. What recently happened this year, because I was moving around a lot through Mexico, and I had some online clients and a few personal clients, but I decided to come to Mexico City and actually have a clinic space here to, show myself and also not be on the road. But I found the very first probably 10 clients, 10 or 12 clients, they've gone through their like connective tissue work on the table, and then they've come to some breathing classes, and I've given them information and made them accountable how to breathe and how to mouth tape at night so they can, and how to re-educate nasal breathing. But they're not necessarily coming to me privately for breathing, but they say, hey, I actually bought this book and I'm now looking at the research, and I'm actually going through that journey of self-learning to correct my own ailment, which is perfect, because that's already tick, tick, tick for me. And I'm like, right, now they can take care of that. And when they come back to me, they're going to be less anxious. They're going to be more present, better circulation, better presence in their body. So I can even serve them more. And then afterwards, the ones that they come, 10 or 12 sessions, depending on the severity of the chronic pain, I teach them corrective exercise. We have a few sessions in the local park, and we learn how to, all the different corrective exercises that respect human biomechanics and gait, rather than just isolation, lifting weights, teaching them a safer way and teaching them how to connect different parts of the body where they didn't have any support or stability. And, they're doing that now. They're not coming to the clinic because they don't have pain, and they're saying, hey, I'm eating better. What's going on? I'm sleeping better. I actually feel strong. And, then now they're coming as a community sense. They're not, and I said to them, look, if you want to stop or if you want to do whatever you like, you can, but I recommend you learn more about your movement and move correctly. And, there are a few of them that are still with me after 5 or 6 months now.
Yep.
And they come to every class and they're just asking the right questions. And that gives me energy and gives me motivation to keep going. And that's probably the best part of this work is noticing people are not being forced. They're actually doing things, and they're actually asking intriguing questions from you that makes me want to sharpen my sword. So I have to be constantly improving myself. Otherwise, if I have people that are complaining all day, oh, this doesn't work, and if they're not really keen, then how am I going to find the motivation to keep doing the work that I can? There's a lot of building blocks to keeping yourself in a good shape and keeping motivated, looking at your why, looking at your values. But at the end of the day, all that is important. But if you go to a clinic space and then you come back drained, then something needs tweaking. I wouldn't say something's wrong, but something needs to change. That's in a nutshell. And when I used to live in Australia, in Sydney, when I had my clinic space, I used to have a lot of amazing clients. But when I would go home, my body would hurt. And I would feel really, really drained. And a lot had to change. And I was forcing stuff. You should do this. You should do that, which nobody wants to hear.
Yes.
Like, what do you talk about? Like, like, how do you know what I should do? But now it's like, hey, this is the information. This is why. And then telling him in a very non-scientific, very digestible manner that even a kid can understand, and using very simple analogies, just like the brake and the accelerator. And that gets people are intelligent. So that gets people resonating. And I tell people, I say, what do you do first thing off the bat? Which is not a cool question, conversation starter, but even though they've written it down, I want them to talk about themselves. Like, I'm a nurse, I'm an engineer, I'm a builder. And I say, so you are a specialist in your field. I immediately make them feel they're not dumb. Because a lot of people have this stigma that you're going to this person, he's got titles everywhere. No, 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 no. You need to understand that you're an intelligent system and we got to work together. So I tell them that you are intelligent. If you're a builder, yeah, maybe you don't know how to do, put a computer together, but you know how to set up a building and make it safe and, lay a foundation of the concrete and build on top. So if you can do that for a building, can you build that for yourself and can you learn one brick at a time? And that really inspires people to that, wow, I never thought of it that way. I think making people accountable is the most important part. And, they'll say, hey, you helped me a lot. And I say to them, fantastic, thank you. I acknowledge that, but you did a huge part of the legwork. And I think just giving them back to them. They're going to keep referring people to you. They're going to, love you, send you chocolates or whatever. But I just want them to feel good within themselves and not need me forever. Because tomorrow I might leave Mexico City. What are they going to do? And I tell them, I say, hey, if I go back to another country, go back to Australia, or if I go to another country, what if you never learn anything from me? And they're like, yeah, you're right. So I said, get your investment. So I think we need to have these conversations more. And if
I think that's a great approach to client treatment care as well. I personally sort of run my business from that model of having a client and taking them through a series of sessions that generally has a completion. There are people that still want to see me week to week, which is fine, and I love that too. But generally with clients that have a specific issue, I want to have a clear beginning, middle, and end for them. That way, I hope that at the end of the series of sessions we've done, they've got a sense of empowerment to go on without me and not need me and not need treatment for the rest of their lives. Which is, that's the approach I've taken on as well. With your breath work, you've mentioned Buteco. Is that the only form of breath work that you do, and what is Buteco, and do you add any other modalities in as well?
Great question. So Buteco method was founded by a Dr. Buteco in the USSR, I think about 50 years ago or so, quite a while back. But due to the Iron Curtain and they didn't want the information to be sent to the West, they kept it a bit of a secret. What it was there was a doctor who was asthmatic, severe asthmatic with regular asthma attacks, and he was working also in the asthma ward of a hospital, I think in Moscow, in now Russia, and he noticed that all these people that are coming to the asthma ward are constantly suffocating, like, oh, with all due respect, that's the way they're hyperventilating and they're gasping for air. And he begged the question, is it the asthma that's making these people not be able to breathe? Or is it their breathing and the quality or the way they breathe, which go very deep into that, that is causing the symptoms such as asthma? So he started to, and apparently he had an epiphany looking at a foggy window during work night at the hospital, that he realized that his chest breathing and, using his upper chest and neck through the mouth. I think that's when the click started. And I like the story, obviously, but I like that it's backed by science and there's a lot of medical doctors and a lot of ear and nose specialists, a lot of orthodontists are applying this method. And it's helped thousands of people not treat, but get over and completely cure asthma, anxiety attacks, panic attacks, reduce their blood pressure immediately within like 10 minutes, or reducing their blood sugar. And I've had clients But I mean, sometimes these clients are like, well, oh, I've never heard of this, even though I feel better, or I see my blood pressure on the machine completely back to normal. I don't know. I have to think about this. But I mean, more and more people are learning that there's a behavioral shift that needs to happen. And breathing is, as mentioned, behavior. So if we start to optimize that and correct that, and back to the reason Buteyko breathing is great is because it retrains nasal breathing and learning to calm the body down. There is a lot of breath works out there, just like there's exercises out there. What we fail to look at, because breathing is, it's been around for thousands of years, but it's now got the mainstream attention. We don't look at why we're doing this. So I tell people, they're like, well, should I be doing breath work? Should I be doing this? The context. What's the context? What are you trying to achieve? So they're like, well, I heard it's good. I said, well, what is good? What are you trying to improve? If you trying to resolve a symptom, or are you trying to get better at something, get fitter? So we have to think first like that. But there's a ton of different breathing modalities. You know, some are very energetic, some are very spiritual, some are very, you know, there's thousands and thousands of different breathing ways, yogic breathing. One thing that Buteyko breathing is a little bit different. It talks about the science of it, what exactly happening, and why we should, as humans, should be using our nose and how to correct that. So let's say other types of breathing out there, like yogic breathing, or let's say Wim Hof, for example. It's not what's better, what's worse. It's what is the intention. If I am a person who has asthma, should I, and I already gasp for air, should I go directly to Wim Hof breathing? You know, opinions are out there. I'd say no, you should learn how to calm your breathing and retrain your breathing to be slower, lower, and deeper into your belly, and use your nose more correctly, and improving your everyday breathing first. So we take 27,000 breaths per day. If, you know, 24 hours a day, we're breathing like, and we're gasping for air, what's exactly going to happen over a lifespan? There's thousands of research out there.
Because the Wim Hof is more, it's more hyperventilation focused. Is that right? That kind of breath work?
It's hyperventilation, continued by breath holds. And obviously it has the cold therapy. So it's not like it's bad or good if it's perfect, or if
it's probably
better
just
than
not like, it's got to be suited to the right, like the right person, because if someone's quite anxious, or you know, it's got some issues you mentioned before, then maybe jumping into Wim Hof probably not going to be great for easing the anxiety in the system.
That's right. I mean, there's people that the huge majority of breathing modalities outside of asthma ward and hospitals. So we come in to preventative and, you know, holistic type of approach. A lot of them have like there's a lot of trend or popularity, let's say, of releasing trauma, releasing or unleashing, giving yourself that fire that you might have lost, which is fantastic. I never ever tell a person not to try something. I just say, go and do it, and then figure out if you like it or not, and then keep learning about the breathing. Get as much books and try different ones and figure out why you're doing that. But for instance, um, if someone's got anxiety, for example, or panic attack or depression and insomnia, all of these usually go together. So it's not like you're just anxious, but you sleep really deep. Because most people that have chronic anxiety and chronic stress, they're not good sleepers. They wake up in the morning groggy with dry mouth, and they need a cup of coffee or something to pick them up. They're not going to wake up, wow, I'm going to go and smash it today. It's not going to be like that. So it all goes hand in hand. So as good as it is saying go and try Wim Hof to get your motivation and get yourself a boost of energy, I would say in conjunction with that, why don't you look at your breathing on a day-to-day basis? 8 hours of sleep. During sleep, we don't think about our breathing. Most people are very proud to say, yeah, mate, I snore. But I say, do you actually know what happens when you snore? Your mouth breathing, and you're getting 10 to 20% less oxygen to your brain and your organs. And that snoring not only has a ton of you know, health risks for you because you're not even getting good deep sleep. So the next day your body is going to be on, you know, it's going to be struggling. So you need lots of caffeine, lots of sugar. You know, your hormonal balance is going to be out of whack. So, you know, talking about those stuff, but if you're mouth breathing for a lifetime, that could turn into sleep apnea. It could turn into stroke. You're going to have facial issues and structural issues and also cavities and bad breath. So giving people a dose of showing them the other side of the coin and then making them want to learn a little bit more is always a good thing. And you know, teaching them how to unblock their nose. A lot of people are actually found out that they're not against corrective breathing. They're not against wanting to restore nasal breathing and stuff like that. One thing is they just can't breathe through the nose, and you know they've lost touch with that, and that's as a result of, you know, we live in a very stressful environment these days. We're overworked. We're inside lit places, but we don't get any natural light. And then we finish work late, and then when it is dark outside, we don't get any darkness. So we're lit all night. And we fall asleep as a result, but we don't get that deep sleep, and we breathe fast and shallow because we're not in an adequate environment. So our fight or flight response, our stress response is high. And most people are always here, but they can't calm down and they can't maintain balance between the autonomic nervous system, stress and rest and digest. You know, it's
Yes.
always like 80-20. And a lot of people know about this, but they're like, well, I've tried A, B, C, D, but nothing worked because they just used a whole bunch of research and information and they just don't know how to dissect it and what actually worked. So then, you know, oh, this is hard and I'll just leave it. So I think it's it's important to also tell the client, hey, you should take some interest into your own health and hopefully plant the seed.
And that's the thing. There is so much information out there, you know, in any field, because you know, breath work particularly, there's so many different modalities. But I do like that Buteco, because I've looked a little bit into it myself, and there is a lot of research behind the Buteco method, and I like that it has an emphasis on promoting nasal breathing. So, do you have any tips for people listening that are quick tips for the Buteco method, things you can pass on? Because one thing that I got that's actually been really profound for my sleep is I've been getting some tape and then taping across my mouth when I go to sleep, and that's been helping me breathe through my nose as I sleep. But also, I found when I don't have my mouth taped, my mouth is open when I'm sleeping, so I'm breathing through my mouth, and my mouth is really dry. My throat's really dry in the morning, and bad breath would come. And then I looked at some of the research with, you know, when you're sleeping with your mouth open, it's promoting so much. It can promote decay in the teeth because of the germs, because you're drying things out. So since I've been taping my mouth, all of that's gone away. I don't have bad breath anymore. My mouth feels moistened when I wake up in the morning and feel more refreshed. And that was just one simple thing. Do you have anything else you could offer?
Absolutely. Um, over this last few years of applying breathing, it feels like some people find that a little bit regimented, or at the beginning it's too much to learn about and sit down. So one thing that I find for people that are super busy and you know they've got a lot on their plate, but they want to start taking action now. You don't need to take 50 steps, you know, or you don't need to take drastic action. You can do one little thing, but do it regularly. And this is something that I've done for a few people that are super busy and they're like, mate, I can't do any breathing exercise. I just don't have the time. I said to them, first, learn to how to decongest your nose if you can't breathe through your nose. So there's no point telling a person to breathe through the nose if they close their mouth and they're going to feel suffocated. And that immediately is going to stress them and they're going to have a really bad image of breathing. And people actually, when they start breath work, sometimes there's people that have, anxiety attacks, panic attacks. I once was running a training class, and I did like a very strong breath hold. And I forgot to ask a person their underlying conditions. I had just started doing this, so she had a panic attack, and she, to this day, she just doesn't want to know about breathing because I first didn't qualify. I just thought she's young and fit, and she'll be fine with deep breath hold. But it's again, you got to figure out individual and then what's exactly happening. But the
Where
safest
they're
and
at.
the most amazing way is learn to decongest the nose. There's a lot of different videos. I have some videos on my social media.
Okay.
There's Bucheco Clinic International has a free app that has all the, and they also have, if you don't use a smartphone, or if you don't like using apps and be on your phone, YouTube, all their stuff is available. All the techniques are available there. So you can learn to decongest your nose, and it tells you what to look for, what to not look for in a very simple, understandable way. Or we can, have a session down in the future, have more deeper conversation and more exercises. But first, decongesting the nose and just getting a feel of how it is to breathe through the nose. And then when you do that, I tell people, keep your mouth closed. If you're not eating, if you're not sleeping, if you're not speaking, keep your mouth closed. And set a reminder for yourself every hour for the first week or 2 weeks. Is your mouth open? Is your mouth open? Is your mouth open? And I've had clients who have said, hey, all I did was just decongest my nose and keep my mouth shut. And I feel so much clearer and I get so much work done. And when I get home, I'm not drained, but as a result, I sleep really well. So the next day I wake up really refreshed. I'm like, so what did you change? Well, you didn't need to see me for 10 sessions. Like, well, I just learned how to decongest my nose very easily in a safe manner and then kept my mouth closed. And I said, well, now that you know the benefits and it's worked for you, get a paper tape and just put it around your mouth at night, and just maybe practice that when you watch TV or when you're washing your dishes, so you know that it's safe. And mouth taping is something that needs to be explained to people because there's a lot of social media trend people, putting duct tape around their face or saying, well, if I shut my mouth, I'm going to suffocate and die at night. None of that is true.
Yeah.
Because when you decongest the nose, and when you it takes about 5 minutes, and what happens that all the airways are open now. It's like you have a small PVC pipe, but now and you open the tap of your water, only a little bit of water going to come out. Doesn't matter how much you turn on, correct? But if you
Yes.
get a double that PVC pipe, if you get a much bigger pipe, then all of a sudden you can open a tap and a lot more flow can come through. So that's what happens when you decongest the nose. So the airways from the nose all the way down are opened up, they're dilated. So there's more flow can go. And then while you're practicing to keep your mouth closed, and there are breathing exercises that we can, people can, if they find interest, they can go into it a little bit further, but they can learn to calm the body down and calm the breathing down. So it's just maybe putting one hand on the stomach and one hand on the chest without going into details and explaining. But trying to see if we can breathe just a fraction a little slower. We're just following it and see if we can, calm ourselves down. And they notice by them having their mouth closed 8 hours a night, and then throughout the day being aware of it, the brain chemistry will start to change. So what does that mean? They're going to have better oxygenation. They're going to have less hyperventilation, and they're going to see the long-term benefits.
So
And
that's
when you
really
have
profound for people that have anxiety. Yeah, that's that method. After you've done the nasal decongesting, it's just teaching them to
anxiety,
breathe slow. Yeah, yeah,
I mean, if whether you have anxiety, or whether you have insomnia, whether you have sleep apnea, or long COVID, for example, that's a very common condition. And I've got a client who I've been working with for about 8 or 9 months now that has long COVID. but the principles are the same. It's retraining the nose and teaching the body to breathe more efficiently. But I mean, if someone didn't even have any health issues, that doesn't that doesn't mean they're excluded. You can have better brain function, because if you're mouth breathing, all the blood vessels are shrunk. So you got less flow of oxygenation, and your body is going to be more sensitive to carbon dioxide. So you're going to blow out, you're going to breathe much faster, and then as a result, you're not going to get enough oxygen. So comes 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, most people are like, oh, man, I can't concentrate. I need another coffee. So they opt for that coffee or, energy drink. But next thing you know, that caffeine is in their body till like midnight or 11 o'clock at night. So that impairs their sleep. And then the next day they're impaired. So it's like very simple tools and making us educated. So, the information is out there in a very simple way now. It's not like
Yes.
our grandparents where they didn't even have access. They had to go to a library and where the things were translated. We have things in the fingertip. If we let go of scrolling and learning information that is not applicable, but spend even 5 minutes learning something that we can apply, and it has a context, it has an intention, that has a long-term vision, and there's a purpose behind it, we're all going to start seeing better health. And when we
And I
do
think
that,
for
what
on
does
the
that?
subject of health, so for parents listening, Buteyko is really profound because there's so much research around children and then what happens to their jaw structure when they breathe through the mouth. So, doing some of the taping and the decongestion work for children has pretty profound work, because I knew you've worked with children as well.
I haven't recently been working with children here, but I've had a few experiences, and we are part of our training and our case studies we had to learn. And a huge part of the Picker method these days, and the efforts and the investments they're doing, is re-educating the parents and getting parents, children working together. Because when it comes to training children, you're not working one-on-one just with the child, because you need, obviously, your important to speak to the child, but you need to teach the parent how to keep that child motivated, focused, and also safely work with them. So, it's not that child doesn't feel left out. So it's something inclusive. And a lot of good parents out there that have got amazing results with echo breathing for their children is they're doing it themselves. They're learning, like, well, I may not have any underlying symptoms or conditions. I can see what this is going to do for me and learn it, because if I learn it, I can give it to my loved one and improve their quality of life. If my child is better off, what does that mean for me? If my child goes to school and can't concentrate, and I was there, I used to be math breather when I was a kid. There was no education back then, and I just couldn't concentrate. I was told, hey, you'll never be anyone, you'll be a bum. And that was my teachers would say that, in high school, they would say, yeah, good luck being a bum. But I just could not concentrate at school. And as a result of that, I've had a lot of cavities and a lot of, work done in my teeth. But I never was eating a lot of chocolate or anything like that. Brush my teeth, floss my teeth. But why is that? It's probably some factor that could have been looked if I was, if my nose was not congested, if I was breathing correctly, if I was aware of what is actually happening, maybe I would have enjoyed school, maybe I would have done better, which is besides the point. But I mean,
No,
for
no,
me,
I
I've
think
found
that's
that
a I think that's a great point. And again, for like parents listening, because I've read that Patrick McEwen, who's a big proponent of Uteco, he had a very similar story to you, as he struggled a lot in paying attention in school when he was a young child, and he sort of relates that back now to it was because he was breathing through the mouth. So
correct.
there's really cool research on how breathing through the nose for children can change the way that they pay attention, which is I think what's needed probably now more than anything, because that is a big thing in schools, like attention. So, and then you've even shared your own story as well.
Mm,
So that's a big one.
absolutely. And it's something that needs to be looked at, and education around that has to keep changing, because that research is out there, and there's myriad of
There's so much.
testimonials out there, but it's just comes back to values and priority. And if people, because a thing these days is like people, a few years ago, people were like, well, where's the research? But now there is the research. What's the problem? You know what? I don't really feel like it, or I'm busy. And what's priority, what's important to you? Is your busyness because you're wasting too much time, and those are the questions that really trigger people. But we have to I think it doesn't matter if you're a therapist, or you're healing, or you're just an everyday person or a builder. We need to be able to have these conversations, show each other's perspective without saying, well, you're wrong, or I'm wrong, or no, 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 I don't agree with that. You don't have to agree. Like, there's people that say, hey, posture is rubbish. Okay, no problem. I don't need to agree with you, but I'm not going to cry about it or have a fist fight with you, either. And we have to just be able to really express and talk about our viewpoints. And then and then if someone says, hey, no, you're wrong, and then we can challenge us, say, hey, where are you getting this information? Not just to say you're wrong or I'm right, but maybe I can learn something. And that's one thing I've noticed. We can have these conversations, and um, just give the people the other perspective, and then let them get out of the way, and let them decide for themselves what is priority, what's true to them. Because there's people that say, there's people on YouTube or on Instagram that say, why the hell do you want to breathe through your nose anyway? I just want to breathe through my mouth. They're making a joke. So it's like, what exactly is priority to you? If you want to have fun, and if you want to just have a laugh, different story. But if you want to correct um, an ailment, and you want to really improve your quality of life, I reckon it's worth it. Absolutely. It's been worth it for me, for many of my clients. But you know, just the sleep part, the focus and the sleep is amazing.
Yes.
I can treat 3, 4, 5 clients in a day, read a couple of hours, still get my exercise in, still make my breakfast, still have time with my partner and my dog. We go to the dog park 3 times a week. Sorry, 3 times a day. So, it's, and do my marketing, do all that stuff. Why? Because I focus on the bigger picture, sleep and my brain power. And then from there on, and obviously environment and all that stuff. But you look at the big things that are going to really catapult you. And it goes without saying, if I sleep 8 hours and I wake up really refreshed, would I like that? Or maybe 5, 6 years ago, when I used to wake up and I needed like a large 4 shots latte with 2 sugars to just to wake myself
Yes.
up and realize, who am I? And yeah, that's
Well, I had to, excuse me, when I started with the just taping the mouth across and going to sleep, and then I did some of the nasal decongestion, and my sleep has improved so much. I get my 8 hours. I feel really refreshed. The other caveat I'll add on to that is I just got some blackout blinds, so my room is pitch black at night, and that just took it next level too. So with the little Buteco add-ons, like, my sleep is really good. And like you, I feel really refreshed in the morning. I don't need a triple latte to get me moving for the day. So
I
with
still
you,
enjoy a cup of coffee in the morning. Just let's be this. I'm not anti-coffee. I love coffee.
anti-coffee, yeah, no, neither am
Coffee
I,
is
and
like
my clients
one
know that too,
Canadian
that I
or
love a
European.
coffee. So
Yeah.
with self-care for yourself, how do you manage self-care? Because that's something I've learned a lot this year that I've had to put forward more, is self-care. So have you learned a similar lesson? Have you sort of let things pass, or you've been pretty good with self-care?
No, I think self-care is the most important thing, whether you want to be successful as a professional, but I say even more as a human. success, not just in the term of business, but in terms of purpose and who you are and what are you doing in this world is I just turned 36, and every year self-care becomes more and more profound and also more important to me. And I'm trying to look for ways to make it more efficient, let's say. But I think we it, we don't have that's the thing. Some people think we have to be perfect to help someone else. That's absolute BS. You have to be willing, and you have to be wanting, use your gifts to want to help someone, all that stuff. However, there comes a time where you have to take care of yourself. If you're tired, if you're anxious, if you're feeling like crap, and then a person comes in that has had a lot of things going on. We're talking, let's say we only know about their physical problems because they're telling you only physical, but they could have had, a lot of other things in the background they haven't talked about. They have the worst day, and then they see you, you're like, oh, hi. Would that person feel anything? Would you be able to help that person? I'd say no. So I think self-care is really important, inside and outside, not just wearing nice clothes, but also making sure sleep is good, training is good, and practicing what you preach. I do everything that I teach my clients. There's none of the stuff that is excluded from my own life. And I've done it first, and it's worked for me. That's then I have it's how do you say it? I'm qualified to give them that advice. It's not just something I read and I tell them, like saying, don't smoke, but I want to smoke. No problem. You shouldn't smoke. Bad for you, but you know, you have to lead by example. But self-care, especially morning routine, is connecting to me and not having any kind of distraction is my number one priority. And I think without that, it's it's just burnout. And I've had a few friends who, over the last few years, they're burnt out. Got arthritis, got several worse conditions. Health and wellness because they're just giving, giving, giving all day. They feel like they have to provide. They give themselves such a big pressure of being a healer. But then, are you healing yourself? That's the question I need to ask is like, are you a shining example or you just preaching and you're trying to prod? And that's what I speak sometimes to therapists here. Worked with mentored a few psychologists, a few chiropractors, a few physiotherapists, and I'm not a medical doctor, so it's like it's hard when you talk to someone that's gone through 8 years of study and residency and things like that. But people here makes you very humble and very open to learning new information. But I just tell them, I say, you're a therapist, you're trying to help people, but why you drinking so much, or why you're constantly in pain? And that they may not have the answer, but at least I want to be that person that asks them that tough question. And I hope they don't punch me, but I still haven't been, uh, you know, that's just a joke. But most of the time people want to have someone like their peers or their friends or people that they trust to tell them something different rather than, hey man, forget about that. That's not going to work. Let's just go and go for a drink. So I think we need to help lift each other because if that doctor or if that therapist or psychologist is a better person, in better shape, they're healing the world better. They contributing more. And I think that's what self-care is so important. And it's funny, just you might resonate with this. A lot of times on social media, you get Instagram, find more clients. We'll give you 50 more clients, within 1 month, and this. You'll make the money, take your career to the next level as a therapist. But none of those ever talk about, or the ones that I've seen anyway, that talk about, hey, maybe people don't want to come back and don't resonate with your energy because you don't take good care of yourself. Maybe physically, emotionally, maybe you're just not doing your best. You're only putting 50%. Maybe you should put 100% and give it a good go and see what happens. And I found that a lot of times I have like a lot of clients earlier on, beautiful. Then I realized I don't have a client for like a month. I'm like, what's going on? Then I realized, I've just slacked off. Just like, yeah, I know everything. I know exactly what I'm going to do. I'll turn up 2 minutes before the session. This was when I started. And I realized, no, 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 no. I'm not taking this seriously. And I'm not respecting this client that's coming and paying me money. I want to be there 15, 20 minutes before. The room has to be nice. I need to be well presented. Maybe if I'm working with the neck or working with my hands, I need to make sure my hands are clean and my nails are properly manicured so I don't scratch I don't cut them, and those little things, it's what gives you the winning advantage. Then also, am I telling people something and am I applying them? Am I actually going to bed early? Am I hydrating well? Am I really doing self-massage, self-release, myofascial release on the weekends or a few times a week to maintain my body and maintain the suppleness in my tissues? If not, people, they don't need to know you, but they will know your energy is off. You're telling them something, but they know you're fake. And that's one thing I always like, am I doing what I'm preaching? I ask myself every day that. And if I am, then I notice, then all of a sudden someone messages me, and this is really weird every time it happens. And someone messages me, hey, such and such gave me your number. I want to book a session. And they come in, I cannot pay for 10 sessions up front. And also, oh my God, I can pay this bill, I can do this, I can do that. How amazing. But it all is leading by example, and in my opinion, anyway. So I hope if there's any therapists, healers, whatever you want to call yourself, you're out there wanting to improve people's quality of life, first look at yourself and you know improve your quality of life first. Charge your battery. You don't need to be perfect, but give yourself that chance first thing in the morning. Give yourself an hour each day for your self-care minimum. If
Yeah.
not, then we can be better fathers, better husbands, better wives. It's just not going to work. And burnout and chronic disease that comes as a result of years of burnout is going to reduce not only the person's quality of life, but their loved ones. And we all deserve to live healthy, long, happy lives and at least avoid what we can. And we can't
Yes.
avoid everything, but at least prevent going to a doctor every week. I'll go once a year. So that's not a medical advice. Just if we can have less, then we have more time. That, we
And
can
I'd
do
agree
more.
that the morning routine is really important for longevity in any kind of career, really. It's just giving yourself that time. It doesn't have to be a morning routine, as long as you're giving yourself time at some point in the day with particular activities that I guess energize you. For me, it's morning walk, going to the beach, nature, like those energize me, and then that gives me the clarity I need to take on the day or to handle some of the trials of the day. So with
That's
you,
it.
are you doing any kind of do you follow any kind of diet or any kind of movement? Obviously, you mentioned with movement you do functional patterns, but do you do um, like I like to do hiking or indoor rock climbing? Do you do any other kind of different movements or?
Yeah, I love running. I've
Yep.
recently started running about 2 months now, and I always sucked at running. Within 1 minute, I'll just feel like crap, and my body will feel really bad, and I just would not do it. But then a few months back, I was like, wait, I'm working with people, teaching them how to be better humans in running, but I'm not running. So again, came back to what am I not
Yes.
doing? Because correcting gait and all that, like the functional pattern stuff is fantastic. But if I'm just coming back and sitting down afterwards, what's the point? So I started running and, 3 days a week. And it's perfect because I have a little puppy and she's just got so much energy. So every day we are out for
What kind of
walking, but
puppy?
3 days a week. He's a mix. He's just a street dog. We just
Okay.
picked her up when she was 3 months old and she was sleeping in a bunch of rubble.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And she got out and, she's really wild and, just energetic. Well, not wild that bites people, but just like, you could tell it's what I aspire to be, a wild human, to get out in nature and, be active and, enjoy my time on this earth because, you know, we don't know if tomorrow is guaranteed. But back to your question, I love hiking, and outside of Mexico City, there's a lot of mountain and forest hikes. Most people think Mexico City is all, or Mexico is all cowboys and what they've seen in the movies, but it has different landscapes, beaches, mountains, forests, and yeah, so I try to get out of town and do some hiking. But mainly for the moment, especially now that I've moved from Australia to a huge city with lots of concrete jungle, is just mainly running and corrective exercise and a few hikes.
Yep.
And every 2 to 3 months, maybe every 3 months or so, I try to fly, go to a beach or go to Guatemala, where I have a friend who does what I do and he mentors me. So we get to look at each other's movement and correct each other and, learn from each other. He's been doing this much longer. So it's like,
Awesome.
um, it breaks the pattern for me and helps me learn more about me and not be pushing or teaching, but learning and be a
Learning,
student again.
growing. Yeah, that's great. So I've got two great questions, I think, to finish out the show.
Give
What
it to
was
me.
the one thing that you wanted to achieve this year, and did you achieve it? And
Yes.
that can be personal if you want to share personal, or that can be related to the work that you do.
Yeah. So this year I did achieve several things that I had planned the year before. I usually have my this year stuff and then my vision for the next year. So when it comes New Year resolution, it's already been happening for like 3 to 6 months before that. The foundation's laid, so it's just go rather than January starting. But this year, my main concern was um, finding clients that really want to change, and also support myself using my craft because, man, we're all human, and I've had a lot of ups and downs due to COVID and other reasons, financial, moving countries. But last year the challenge was moved to Mexico. But this year we were already here, my partner and I. So it's like, what to do with the time here? Do we just wait? Do I just um, you know wait till my money runs out and then I'm completely stressed out and then go back to Australia, and then which wasn't what I wanted to do. Was for several years been coming here, and the vision was to come to Mexico. I don't know why, but there's back then I knew there was a lot of work here to be done and serving and helping the clients that are seeking me. So this year was the huge goal, and it was very hard. I personally was, my will was defeated.
Mm-hmm.
January, February, March, I had completely given up. I was just went to a beach town and I was just spending the time watching the sunset and just ignoring, what's actually happening. And I wanted to come back to Australia, and I asked a friend of mine, can you help me with the construction job if I come back because I'm going to run out of money. And mm, I'm finding it tough to find clients. But then I was like, no, I need to really focus here and I need to maybe go somewhere bigger. So I came back to Mexico City and I ran one Facebook ad and it cost me 68 Australian dollars. I got 110 messages,
Oh wow.
and and I I wrote every single person rather than generic replies. I had everything translated about what I do, and then wrote people, and some of those people waited like a month or so before they book an appointment. But within July, I had I think late July, I was fully booked.
Yeah, wow.
So
Great.
then, and when the last paycheck came in, that was the last cent I actually had on my account. So it was like I would have had to call my family or call someone to say, hey, I'm 35 years old, I need some money to pay my rent and pay for
Yeah.
food. But I and that's the thing, hopefully this will motivate people. It's like when you're just about to give up is when you're about to get your break. And I've given up so many times. So, like I during the pandemic I called my office job and I asked my boss, can you give my job back? And she said, no. I'm so grateful that she said no, because I had to buckle down and figure it out. But that's just how life is. You just fall, you get hurt sometimes, and you just go and problem solve. We're here to solve puzzle. We're not here to just watch TV and just think the
The
life is just going to get easier and easier. It's never going to get easier,
no.
in my opinion. It's never been easy, but it's just I have to get ahead of it. I have to have the abilities to at least make it a bit easier for me and make
Yes.
it more fun.
And that's and again another great point. Like the obstacle is the way, as the Stoics would
Mm,
say. That thing that we're trying to overcome. Once we overcome that, that's where the learning comes. And sometimes, if it's in your situation, it's literally just right around the corner. It's just you got to push just a little bit more, and then you'll get through it. Okay,
absolutely.
last question, and what helps you? And I'm curious too, because I always come back to this as well. I question, why do I do what I do? But what helps you stay passionate about what you do?
Wow, that's hours and hours. Yeah. What makes me passionate is just being honest with myself, and I think writing things down in a journal and meditating really good. But I mean, all of those tools are secondary. First, it's like I have to look at myself in the mirror and also feel myself and just say, hey, am I the expression or am I the person that I want to be? Am I living a lie? Am I doing what I should be doing? And am I doing the best I can? And I think it's easy to put on a show or distract yourself, but eventually you'll have a reality check and you realize that, hey, you've been lying to yourself. And we all
Yes.
do that. We're all humans. There's nothing wrong with, like it's nothing wrong with going through these different phases, good or bad. I think sometimes we're worried about being vulnerable and talk to someone and admit we're not really doing our best, and we're lost. We're like kids. We need some guidance and we need to talk about those emotions. But I think one thing, vulnerability, being able to talk to some really good people, when I was down, not just complain, but express so it's out, and then I can have a perspective, and if I need help, put my hand up, because I don't know everything, and I think when you really start to write down things on a piece of paper, toxic things, and we all know what they are, and write down maybe a couple of dot points. Why are we doing this? You know, let's say drinking, for instance, or someone that does something damaging to their body. And it's like, yes, a lot of people say, well, I want to stop drinking. I had a client who recently asked me that, but I said to him, why? He just didn't know. He's like, what do you mean why? Because I want to. Is there any health, personal, relationship, any reason at all? He's like, no, I was just told I need to. Like, well, if you need to, then it's probably not going to happen. But if you find the why behind it, why you're doing something, maybe all of a sudden it'll click for you that, hey, I should do something different, and when we examine ourselves, it's easy to point fingers at other people, but it's much harder to look inside and say, wow, I'm not really meeting my own expectation and I'm letting people down as a result. I need to change A, B, and C. And once you ask the question why, if you just keep saying, if you got a headache and you know you sit down and you ask yourself 100 times why you got a headache, why, and you realize, oh shit, I um haven't drank any water and I've been working 50-hour weeks without a break, and I haven't left the house. So then maybe that will open a door to another hypothesis. It might be another reason behind that, and then you figure it out yourself. But yeah, I hope that answered your question. And
Yeah. So, Sahand, if people want to maybe work with you online, do some breath work, because I know that you offer your services worldwide over online formats. How can they access that? And do you have any social
yes,
media? I think you did mention you do as well.
yeah, I've got a Instagram account, and that's great because I post small videos and stuff. My Facebook account is mainly for Spanish-speaking population, so it's not really translated. It's all now in Spanish with my reviews and stuff like that. But they can reach out to me on my website, which is my full name, and
And I'll add
mokhberi.com.
that in the show notes as well, so they can find that
But I
the
mean, they
spelling
can,
as
if
well.
they want to see who I am, or maybe there's some helpful stuff that I've already put on my social media. If they do use Instagram, and they can have a look, and hopefully that will give them some benefit. But if they need anything further, I'm always happy to help. And I run courses from time to time. I was running a lot of online stuff last year during the pandemic and during lockdowns, just to help people have a different perspective. But right now, everything is open, especially in Mexico. They didn't really close things down, and I think I just really enjoy things in person, like events in person. But I've recently been contacted with a lot of people, so I run online classes, courses from time to time, and
Great.
sometimes free sessions where we just communicate. But I mainly post those on the social media.
Okay.
Most people don't really go to people's website every day to look for new information. So I think we're all on social media. So they're more than welcome to follow me, and hopefully I can serve them with some of the information that's helped me and my clients.
Fantastic. As I said, I'll add that in the notes so they can find you. But thank you so much for joining me this morning here and this evening in Mexico. And it was great. We covered a lot of great topics. So thank you so much for your time.
No, it's an absolute pleasure, and I hope whoever's listening or watching this feels the same, and I'll also take something out of it. And really want to thank you also for this opportunity, and yeah, I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sahand. Cheers.